A Philippine convoy last week launched the biggest ever display of maritime solidarity in the South China Sea in an attempt to reach the Scarborough Shoal. Experts say it was part of efforts to assert the Philippines' rights amid China's militarisation of these disputed waters. CNA's Bernal was on board one of the boats in the convoy and has this report.
Chants of support for the most ambitious civilian-led show of solidarity for Filipino fisherfolk and their fishing rights in the West Philippine Sea, the Philippines' label for its exclusive economic zone in the larger South China Sea.
Ngayon lang ma'am, kasi may nanggagabi, may nangangaraw, hindi pare-parehas ma'am. Ngayon lang nagkasama-sama ma'am, dahil dito.
Over 100 small wooden boats joined the fleet that reached 20 nautical miles from shore. 4 larger wooden fishing boats had aimed to reach Scarborough Shoal, a common fishing ground for artisanal fisherfolk as ruled in international arbitration. But its resource-rich inner lagoon has been controlled by China for 12 years now. The sale to give out supplies to fishers near Scarborough was not without a hitch. Our boat's engine lost steam. It was then towed as repairmen worked overtime in yet another display of solidarity. It's almost imperceptible against the vastness of the sea, but you see those orange buoys there? Written on them is the Filipino phrase, "This is ours." And the release of those buoys by the coalition leading the civilian mission is a symbolic gesture to send the message that Filipinos should be free to fish where international law says they could. But that freedom is now under threat. Fewer Filipino fisherfolk are venturing out to Scarborough Shoal in fear of confrontations with the Chinese. As close as 40 nautical miles from shore, 2 China Coast Guard vessels started shadowing our convoy. Our boat's team leader, Robert Garcia, is a former guerrilla fighter. He admits the power struggles of today require new forms of creative resistance.
China is now the Goliath of the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. But we, smaller people, smaller countries, continue to engage them. Of course, we concede that we cannot possibly match them militarily. But there are other arenas of struggle that we can enter, like what we are doing now, pushing civilian stakeholdership, mobilizing volunteers, civilianizing what is now being militarized.
And with a convoy now closer to Scarborough Shoal than from land, civilianize the area he did, even as Chinese ships watched over the convoy.
West Philippine Sea, atin ito!
I jumped in to cover his activities in the deep sea. No warfare of any kind here, just the flow of the ocean's waves. It's no wonder fisherfolk prefer this area, teeming with rich marine life. After a day and a half at sea, Mr. Garcia announced the convoy would return to land. He said fisherfolk near the shoal have been dispersed by Chinese vessels. Our convoy reached 40 nautical miles from Scarborough, but without fanfare. Ahead of the main convoy, this smaller boat was already out at sea. It was an advance team led by fishermen's rights activist Mark Figueras. They breached China's main blockade and managed to hand out supplies to fisherfolk there, even as a Chinese military ship and helicopters circled their boat. They closed in 20 nautical miles from Scarborough's inner lagoon, where he says only the boldest of Filipino fisherfolk enter, often in a cat-and-mouse chase with Chinese vessels.
Yung tapang ng mga mangisdang nakikipag-chase doon, yung nakikipaghabulan, nandito yon. Puso, isip, yung tapang nun. Sa kanila, kabuhayan, kinabukasan. Yung mga mangingisda, nagtatrabaho sila, kaya nila ginagawa yon kasi yung trabaho nila, pagtatanggol nila yon. Yun yung way of living nila. Sana, yung lakas na yon, yung laban na mula sa puso ng mangingisda, maging ganun rin na sana yung taong gobyerno.
On the way home, our boat's fishing crew continued to give out food and fuel to fisherfolk along the way. But the journey goes to show that China's control of Scarborough Shoal continues to be felt in what is supposed to be a shared space. Buena Bernal, CNA, off the waters of Scarborough Shoal.